What's good, brothers and sisters? Welcome back to the podcast for you. If you are a single person, if you are getting matched and blessed, someday you believe in the blessed family ideal, you believe in God and your parents, and you love them with your heart, but you're trying to figure out this life thing, right? As we all are. And so I am currently lying in this beautiful country, the most beautiful country that I have been personally. Honestly, I love this country. It is Japan. It has my heart right now. I've been here for about 2 months, but it really has my heart. There's something about the simplicity and culture, because I grew up in the States and I love America. I love the ideals of America, but we need balance. We need this balance in our world, and especially as I'm raising this family in this world, I want balance for them. I want them to experience their culture, their heritage of Japan, and the kind of simplicity and focus on detail and focus on hard work and ethics and community mindedness, right? But also the beauty of America being freedom, prosperity, and service to your country, and love for others, and unconditional love, and these kinds of beliefs. And so I realized, being here, that America lacks a lot of the things that Japan has, and Japan lacks a lot of the things that America has. And I think it's best to not just point fingers and say one is better, but to say, hey, your parents gave us this blessing for a reason. Your parents gave us this international, intermarriage, interreligious, cultural experience for a reason. And hey, I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to raise my kids in both of these cultures. So my children are going to a school here for the time that we're here. They're going to be going to the local school with some friends that we have, some blessed family friends. And it's so beautiful to see them going to the public school and making friends and going about. I love seeing them because they speak Japanese. My kids speak Japanese very well, actually, for bilingual kids, because our language at home is Japanese. So we all speak Japanese at home. But also they growing up in the States, so their friends are American, and so they speak English very well too. Their English is probably a little better than their Japanese, but their Japanese is very good. And their only setback really here is that they haven't learned to read and write, right? Kanji or hiragana or katakana yet. So they're learning that here, but they're picking it up pretty quick. And I'm just saying this because I'm just so moved to see them really flourishing and making friends and just getting along and really plugging in directly into the system here in Japan. It just moves my heart, and I feel like God is working, and I feel like this blessing is that true parents came to give us is really fulfilled when we're open to these kinds of experiences. We're open to putting everything aside and being like, all right, it doesn't make sense, but let's go to Japan for 3.5 months, right? And I'm really feeling like that's the way we're meant to live, is just kind of throw our hands up in the air and surrender and be like, you know what, this doesn't make any sense, but something about it feels right. And I'm just going to be unafraid and fearful and bold and just let it all go and just take on this life, and Jesus, take the wheel, as we say. So what are we talking about here today, brothers and sisters? Man, how do you make decisions in the matching process? How do you know which direction to go? This is definitely the number one question I get. Definitely. I just got an email. I'm getting emails frequently nowadays from people that are in some sort of dilemma in the matching process, whether it's making a decision about continuing in a conversation, whether it's dealing with a parental conflict they're having with their parents about a decision about a matching process, whether it's a timeline, whether it's a belief thing, whether they believe in the blessing. There's always, or whether it's a porn addiction and how to navigate that inside of a relationship. And so all these conversations are coming to the forefront. And so the common thread, if you will, that is stringing them together is this idea of how do you make a decision that is hard, that is just unclear, where you could essentially flip a coin and not know and be okay with either decision and either outcome. But how do you know, here's a catch, that that's the decision that you feel like God is guiding you on, right? And I think it's an insightful question. But I would say, first of all, I think that we have an epidemic, my friends. We have an epidemic we're facing in today's culture. When I say today's culture, I like saying that because it's not American culture, it's not Western culture, it's not Japanese culture, it's not a particular group's culture. It is today's culture. I don't know where this culture comes from. It comes from a lot of places. It's today's culture. I'm going to call it the internet culture. That's what I've been calling it nowadays, because there's something that I'm noticing in a lot of the young folks nowadays. These kids nowadays, these young people nowadays don't know what they're talking about. These people I'm talking about. It's a culture of today that really doesn't know how to put their heart before their head, and people are making decisions with what sounds good but not what feels good. Amen. You know what I'm talking about. The decision of, do I go down this matching process? Do I talk with this person? Well, it sounds good on paper, but I don't feel it, right? Or it feels right, but it doesn't sound good. And so I'm not going to pursue this matching process. These kinds of decisions, we have an epidemic of putting our head before our heart, because we are looking at things externally. And this is the horse that I have been beating to death on this podcast, is that we have to stop thinking about the external first and thinking about the internal first. It is okay to think about the external at times, but we consistently perpetually consider external things way out of proportionately more than the important things of the internal world, of what feels right. What does my gut feeling say? Let's take an example. Let's say, and I might get in trouble for this, and that's cool, but that's why you guys listen to this. Let's say, for example, you are in a matching process and you're having a conversation and things sound good logically. It's like, yes, we believe in God. Yes, we believe in the blessing. Yes, we believe in the ideal of the blessed family, right? Yes, we believe in mother. Yes, whatever the thing is, like, those things are aligned. It's like, okay, this sounds good. But something in your heart is just like, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Am I saying it's not the right option? That's not what I'm saying. We'll get to that. What I'm saying is, if you only follow your head in logic as to what sounds good, what happens, my friend? What happens down the road when one of you guys is struggling about your faith? Within a few years, sometimes this happens, within a few years after leaving that GAP program, people say, you know what? I don't think God exists anymore. You know what? I don't think the blessing is real. I think your parents are a sham. I think yada, yada, yada. And all this righteous indignation about the church comes out, about the movement come out, and you start looking at the blogs and the Instagram accounts on all the negativity that's going about the Unification Church, and you start watching the news about this and that, and you lose your faith. And so if the relationship was based in logic and not love, in other words, if it's not based in love, then what's it based on? On what your head thought was a good idea. And so that can very quickly fizzle and dissipate and disappear and turn into a sour experience, and you start to blame the blessing. You start to blame your parents. You start to blame true parents. You start to believe that God was never part of your relationship. So another way of saying this, guys, is we have to be able to put love over logic. What feels like the loving thing to do? What is my heart calling me to do? Even though if it doesn't make sense at all on paper, it doesn't make sense at all logically speaking, but lovingly speaking, according to my heart, something about this feels right. It just feels right. And you will know, I freaking guarantee you guys, you will know 100% certainty when you have followed your heart. You will know. Because it doesn't matter what anybody says or who challenges you. You will say calmly, not in defensiveness, you will say, yeah, okay, thanks for sharing. I appreciate your perspective, mom, dad, brother, sister, uncle, aunt. But this feels right. This feels right. Let me remind you guys, when I went to the matching, when I got blessed, right, I don't think I've shared this before. My parents were opposed to me getting blessed at the time because I was rather young. And they didn't do it in a angry way. They were doing it in a concerned way. And we had this long meeting in our prayer room at our house. And I told them, you know what, mom, dad, I'm ready to go to the matching. I'm ready to get it blessed, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, think you're not ready for that. You know, what if, understandably, they had concerns and fears about me not being prepared, about me being young, about things not working out, etc. And I remember just feeling very clear, not like, you guys don't believe in me, you guys don't support me, Johnny's mom and dad said he could get blessed. And anyways, I was very clear to them. I understand, mom, dad, but this feels right, and I'm gonna go. And that's what I decided. And some of the biggest decisions in my life have come with opposition and people thinking that it's not a good idea. But you will know with certainty that it's the right thing because you will just be clear. That's what I'm talking about, clarity. So the next question you guys have, because you're smart, is how do you get to that point where you are clear? Because right now you're in some dilemma in your life, whether it's a faith thing, not believing or believing something, whether it's a matching process, whether it's a thing with your parents, whether it's a belief that you feel like you should have in something, but you don't quite have it yet. Maybe you're on the fence about a relationship you're currently in right now. How do you get to a place where you're clear? All right. And I think this is where the crux is of the issue that people are facing when they don't know how to move forward. And I'll tell you simply that it's not time that's needed for a decision to be made, for clarity to happen. What you're seeking is clarity, and clarity happens through having the right give and take with the right individual. All right. What do I mean by that? Having give and take with God, yourself, your matching partner, your parent, whoever it is, whomever it is, have that conversation with them. And it's usually a specific conversation that needs to happen that will allow you to be clear. And when you have that conversation, when you have that give and take, you will immediately feel like, oh, something in me is released. All right. Let's take an example of a matching prospect and you're having a conversation with a matching partner. And the conversation that probably needs to happen, and this is very common, this is why I'm bringing it up, is something around the area of releasing shadows and being seen and letting all your vulnerabilities out in the open, and then seeing how they respond. Do they respond with a willingness to give grace, a willingness to listen, a willingness to sit with you and hold your hand through it? Or do they respond with absolute contempt and anger, perhaps, disappointment? And those are usually the moments where you become clear that this is the person or this is not the person. And to be honest, most of the stories I've heard of that, it has worked out very well, even though it's the scariest thing in the world to let loose our shadows. My gosh, guys, we know this because this is the fall of humanity. Is the fear of being seen, is the fear of letting our shadows out. Think of Adam and Eve, not just them, but every Adam and Eve throughout history. The fear of letting God into our hearts, the fear of letting our parents see who we are, the fear of letting ourselves be seen, letting ourselves actually be proven to that we're worthy of love. That is the scariest thing on planet Earth, especially from the people that we care the most about. But if you're fearless and courageous enough and you do it anyways, and that person that you were the most afraid and most certain was going to chastise you and condemn you and disown you, gives you nothing but grace and unconditional love, that's how you know you have found the person that you should stay as close as you can with, because they are going to be God for you. Your wife is going to be God for you, men. If you can find that woman that is willing to listen to your porn crap and your masturbation habits and your mistakes that you've made, you talk to that woman, you say, man, I've made a lot of mistakes and I've struggled a lot and I've overcome a lot, and this is really hard for me to share. And that woman listens to you and is willing to give you grace and doesn't immediately chastise you. That's the woman you marry. I guarantee it. In fact, you will want to. And that's when you know, that's when you have clarity, because you will be clear that God will be in this relationship with you, because you will have no shadows in your life. And for women, my goodness, if you find a man who's willing to support you, who's willing to be there, who's willing to listen to you, all your stuff, all your baggage, all your shadows, and all your thoughts and emotions, and all your complaints about your husband. By the way, all women do this. There's no special man out there that never gets complained about their husband, about their wife, from their wife. You're going to complain to your husband to his face, and if you find that man that you can complain to his face and tell him how gross and dirty and annoying he is, and he listens to you, and he smiles, you marry that man. Because that man is going to be God for you. That man is going to be like a wise, old father that you desperately need in your life. It's a father that is going to give you that unconditional love that God intends to give you. that all women desperately need. That is the type of man that you're looking for. And so what I'm saying in all this context and examples is that what you need fundamentally is to find that conversation. It's a conversation of really letting loose, of stop holding your cards close to your chest and let it all down and be seen. Because until you do that, you're going to be confused, perpetually confused and wandering around aimlessly, uncertain, unclear, like in a mist, in a fog. You're trying to climb this mountain, but you don't even see the top of the mountain because it's covered in clouds, and you think you're at the top, but wait, there's more top of the mountain. You haven't even reached the peak yet. You're going to be facing all these kinds of experiences as long as you're not willing to have these conversations and let it all out. And I'm saying this to you guys because you're the ones that are responsible and intentional and going to do this. It's also a vice versa experience. Your spouse has to be willing to do that too. Has to be willing to learn how to give grace. Let me make this very clear. I'm not saying your spouse has to automatically be unconditionally loving and give grace from the beginning. I'm saying they have to be willing to learn how to be loving. That's it. Because no spouse is going to be absolutely 100% unconditionally loving from the beginning of their marriage. That's impossible, because then why would we need marriage? It's through marriage that you learn how to be loving. And if your spouse is willing to learn to be loving, then that is a marriage that's going to succeed. That is a relationship that is going to thrive, and that is the formula for success, a willingness to learn how to love, all right? So, what are some other opportunities for conversations and give and take that are going to make it clear how to move forward, right? Sometimes it's with a parent. If you're in a matching process and you're in disagreement with your parents, common example would be that you have disagreements about the type of person. One of the parents is more very strict and vertical and saying that the prospect has to be this type of person, the family has to be like this, has to have this exact type of belief. And you feel differently because your heart feels differently. You feel like, okay, this guy that I'm in a relationship matching process with it feels like the right thing to do, but it sounds wrong. I mean, we don't have exactly the right faith, right? But something feels right. Okay, you're in a disagreement with your parents. We'll talk about that. That's when the conversation has to happen. That's when you have to get real and honest and admit that you're not as united as you thought you were. Your parent-child relationship is not based in absolute trust and unity and obedience and faith that you thought it was. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that has been hidden until now, and it hasn't come to the surface right until this moment because you guys have not been addressing it and putting your attention on it. Instead, you've just kind of been living life, going about school and work and being busy, going to GPA, whatever, coming back, and now you're faced with these conversations because now you have to confront them, because now you're in a confronting situation in a matching process that's requiring you to grow. And my goodness, that is a beautiful situation to be in. It's a beautiful situation. Congratulations, you're doing the work that is necessary to become the person that you need to be, right? So these types of conversations, and so there's many different examples I could give. I would say ultimately, it could be a conversation with God and with yourself. Maybe you have to have a conversation with God, just an honest conversation. Maybe there's some things that you're hiding. Maybe there's some things that you're confused about. You have to have those conversations. Maybe there's some things about you and beliefs that you have that you're holding yourself back, and you need to have a conversation with your own self. This is something that I do sometimes, is I have a conversation with my older self. Why? Because my older self knows me and is wiser than me. And I generally know, I think, what my older self would be, because I feel like that's exactly what God would say to me. And so this is something I do actually, because I send, I used to write emails to my older self and to my younger self, like my teenage self before I was blessed. And now I started doing this with ChatGPT because I kind of have trained ChatGPT to think like my older self or think like my younger self. And so I'll write a letter in ChatGPT to me in the future when I'm like 89 years old, right, about to die, have been through all my life experiences, I'm about to pass on. And so I will write this letter and ChatGPT will respond to me in exactly the way that I wanted ChatGPT to respond, I wanted my older self to respond to me. And usually, almost always, it's something along the lines of, Benji, don't worry about it, man. You're fine. You're a good man. You're a good man that has a loving heart that really truly cares about your family, about God. Don't worry about it. All those things that you think are wrong about you, the things that you feel like are selfish, and yeah, but they'll work themselves out. Just keep going. Just keep being the man that you are. Keep loving your family. Keep focusing on them. And everything will work out, right? And he's got this older version of me has a little bit of like a slight smirk, like a smile on his face, because he knows something about him. He knows what I'm going through. But he's just like, yeah, man, I've been through that, and that is something you'll get through. Hello, Iona. Iona's here. So my baby girl just came in, Iona, to my room while I was recording, and I guess she's indicating to me that I should wrap this up. And so what I'll just say to conclude is that the foundations of this episode are really that time does not automatically heal. Time heals all. That's what they say. Time does not automatically heal. Time creates opportunities, because there's a lot of people that are really old that have not healed. There are a lot of people that are really young that have healed tremendously. And so time doesn't automatically heal anything. What time does is gives you opportunities for healing and growing. It gives you chances to make decisions, to be bold and courageous, to, in this context of matching and blessing and making decisions, it's having the right conversations with the right people. And that could be yourself, with God. It could be with your matching prospect. It could be with your parents. But have those conversations, and those conversations will take you light years ahead in terms of your growth, in terms of your healing, in terms of getting you on the direction that God is guiding you on. They will take you light years ahead. And those conversations usually are something to do with letting loose and shedding light and illuminating and eliminating the shadows in your life, the things that you're afraid to talk about, the things that you're afraid to bring up. Those things, when they come up, God immediately enters your heart, because that, my friends, is the antidote to the fall. That's what is needed in the couples and families and individuals in our world. That is what's needed in Adam and Eve and everyone since then, right? Is we need to let loose our shadows so that God can enter our hearts through the beaming light of God's love. That's what's needed. That's what we've been searching for, and that's the solution for you guys. Okay, God bless you. If you guys do want to message me questions or topics of discussion, feel free to do that anytime. You can DM me. Actually, I think that might be easier. I've been sending people my email, but it might be easier if people just DM me on Instagram, and then I will do my best to respond to you or make an episode. Okay, God bless you. Love you. Bye.